Hello and welcome. It is the fourth day of September 2019. My name is Derek, and this is the Money Charts channel. All bets, trades, and of the like within each his own risk and their own reward. This could get very, very interesting. I've already done a silver video. It's almost at $20. It's 19 and a half an ounce now, and up between 30 and 40% from its low. But 30-40% isn't much in the crypto space. For if we take 10,000 and we take 30%, 35%, well that's what this range is. So that this entire range represents a silver gain as far as its move. Yeah, this the cryptocurrency volatility is the biggest game in town, or the biggest name in town for having huge wild movements, I would have to think. But with that being stated, what should we see coming? More of that? Well, maybe. We're still in this range. We've been in this range for a long time. We've left the lower end of this. We're above the 18 average of highs. And we got a long, long, long ways to go to get to this level. And it could do it fast. In fact, in here, it got, for the first time on the retail, we'll say the first time this year, it got above this 9,800 or 10,000 level on the first day of summer, June 21st. And eventually reached its yearly top on June the 26th, 5 days later. Well, that's going to happen sometime. So it could make this move in no time. It could do it in a day or two. That's unlikely, but it could. And as long as we're in this range, it's all the yada yada stuff. But let's look at this yada yada. We'll switch the time frames over to the shorter, but within this range, we had a decent support test of several days in here. It hit this 4.5% down day, opening at 10,172, closing at 97. And then it spent 3, even 4 days below this line and as low as 93. And then this nice up day, opening at 97 and 2/3 and closing at 10,381, got above the 18 average of highs, and now it's been staying above it. This is the second period. This one is an interesting one because we got this little line in here, so it's technically pretty much near its close. It's at all time or highs for the day, and it went down a little lower. So what's the story for today? Well, before we look at shorter time frames, this in itself is nice. And as far as fast moves to get up to this upper range, at least to and past the middle part, which would be about 11 the 11s or 11,200, could become more probable. But what? And let me get my volume back. I've had it off, I think, earlier for some silver markets. In this, we can see, okay, well, part of that correction on that daily move with that line would have been these three candles. We have a green candle here. We're near the high of 4 periods ago. Okay, 3 hour chart. Well, it's 2 hours and 58 minutes. We're starting a new period. The last one ended with a 2.3% move from the 18 average of lows getting to above and pretty much at the 18 highs. Okay, single hour. And I'm going to change this for two reasons. I'm going to change this to the tether on the Binance. So two reasons. One, because I'll have better shorter term data moves and with higher volume. Two, I can draw on here without losing those lines. Because I'm going to draw on here, and the only way I'm going to get rid of it would be push this button here, which would delete my lines. This level of major resistance, and it's major because of all the times, the amount of time it's spent hitting that area, was support on two different occasions. It came down here with a quick move because it didn't spend much time there, but it hit it. But it spent much time in here, at least within these two periods of pausing. Huge, huge, huge single hour. So it started at 12 o'clock. It's 2:02 p.m. as I'm doing this. And the move is very sufficient when it's able to get to and above the 18 average of highs. Thus, it's managed to get to previous high. A lot of times, if you can get 60% of a move, 65%, well, that's pretty good. But this is 100% retracement from this high. So we're at one of those areas I'm looking for. Okay, previous high, we're there. Above the 18, holding in this area is so, so important. As what's nice is just to for now hold the 18 highs, allow the 18 average of lows to start rising, and then if you need some consolidation at this point, maybe in about 3 periods or 4 periods from now, maybe closer to 5 6 p.m., meet up with the 18 in it. That's one of the ways it can do it. This thing can go at any time, and the real level of resistance I'd be looking at is 10,741 because that's what it had earlier. And of course, we'll go to the this again. Getting above that, that's when we start talking about hitting those higher prices. I've already looked at this. So that was a single hour, 15 minute. Let's see what we can see upon it. Well, it's pretty easy to tell me which hour it started on or which time frame. It was 12 o'clock here. Three consecutive 15-minute slots where it went up nicely. One pause, and then another up nice. And now we have completed three pauses, and one third of the way through this almost. It's pausing a little bit and at the lower end of this very short term range. So we know that there's something going on. This is a short term correction so far. It's not too tight, but it's got to break it to one side or another. Oh, we'll see what happens if it breaks it to the downside. I've already told you the upside what can happen. I wonder where suspected likely area of support is. This is just so easy and typical because you've already established key support. What I'm looking for on a break is the not so small, not so big, but just right move. And in here, this is about the size of a leg lower. Piercing below in this area, same thing. And it would meet up within this 18 average as well. So that's something that I would be considering to take place. But overall, I'm giving a lot of upside bias towards Bitcoin. I'm going to be showing next the Bitcoin dominance. But let's just take a look at the shorter term to see more in depth within this move because this is the short term level of support. It's at there now, and the resistance so many times hit. 1 minute, just yeah. So you just spent a many single minutes recently at the 10.64, 10.63 high change level, but it's not there anymore. 10.61. Of course, these are all short-term variables, but it does mean when you're looking at this longer term, well, first before I seen breaking down here, we'll take it to those levels that I shown before, which is right around in here, which is between 10.580 and 10.554. And if we correct in here, we could be looking towards up to a 61.8%. But again, that's on a bullish level up to, of course. I think this has got the potential to go really, really big. And what really makes it uh, more clear for me on this situation, the short term already has like 8 hour time frame, 3 hour time frame, leaving the 18 here. That's all great and fine. But when I look at this on the Bitcoin dominance perspective, and let's go from short term to long term. This is what Bitcoin looks like on the 4. Now let's look at the dominance on the 4. And there we have it. Let me remove this volume so we don't have to. Yeah. So it looks about the same, which isn't really that uncommon. 15-minute chart. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. We have that one sit level of resistance, and it's spent very little time there. We have a more uh, better level that we worked with before. And I'm trying to find my line. Where did it go? This is not like this is. I got two. There we go. This is what I was looking for, and this is to put me to. This is like an undo thing. This is my drawing tool, and then these are. And I just go like this to delete it, and this is my line that I use. So now that I've clicked that, I can put a line in somewhere around here. That's that general big area of resistance. And you know what? I really have to put it there because meeting up on these points here, meeting up on these points in here as well. That what the price action in here has done, we had the price fall from in here, higher lowing this, then the excitation of the 18 at 12 o'clock, and it had very little resistance at this point at previous high, as it just had this little one period sideways move, and now it's broken it clearly. Okay, so this is interesting. Let's take a look at this on other time frames. I'll remove these lines. I might add some more later. It's been a beautiful run on the single hour. This has been going on for how long? 25th. Yeah, 25th. It had a 3x hit level of support that it broke off of here. That was a good 2 weeks or so where it was going sideways. So during this time, and really it's not what date it is, it's how many periods it's been as from this low. So it's definitely in the over, it can't keep doing this, but right now the benefit of the doubt for the next move to me looks like this is going to go much higher. So we have this high, this leg higher, correctionary move higher low from this. Then we establish this level of resistance and we have a much more bigger level in here. It spends a long time really getting above this because it established it on August 28th. It really never got above it until September the 1st. Which again, 3 days, yeah, but the amount of periods is what it comes down to. And amongst this, we had higher low to this, matching low maybe. And now from this excitation here, you have a little bit of correction amongst the 18, but and a little bit of time, but from that a huge move to this leg higher. And then you have this correctionary move that comes into play. You leave it, you have this leg higher, and then you have another correctionary move, the one that we see in here. So this was a higher low to this, all higher lows, of course. Excitation of the 18 just occurred, and it's following through very well. Okay. So I would expect a decent sized leg higher to continue moving forward. Let's see what the higher time frames say. So 3 hour chart, just leaving from this 18 in here. And when we see some of the exitations before, this was a huge run. This could easily go up. But what was the move in here going up from 71 to like, and what, 71? Basically 1 unit. And that we could be looking for that again. It could be 73.50, 73.60. That's a pretty significant move if it happens. And we're sort of overextended. We are overextended. It's well above the 18 average of highs and lows. It hasn't seen it for a while. It's not majorly overextended because of the 3 periods that preceded the one we have now. These 3 pause periods. That's why it's not that overextended. And what we're seeing is, well, the buyers are in control of the market. Yeah, when it's going up too much, it's going to have to stop at some point. But why do we think that? I don't see it now. That point. It looks to me like we're leaving this point, and well, we got to talk about this high, I guess, because that's where we need to have the line. So let me just. Yeah, it's above that, and it's barely above it. That's interesting because we can see in here. And let me just put another line because it didn't even resist this. The resistance has really been down in here. So this level of resistance was just played around within here. And then it went up, and it's still going up. There's like small correction here, and this is what we're leaving, that small correction here. So seeing that it just happens to go up in there, to me, makes all the sense in the world. And thus, because of this, it wouldn't surprise me if Bitcoin in turn makes it closer to the upper end of that range or higher because of it. Let's continue on to the daily. So yeah, I need that line in there again. And April 1st is when this thing really got going. Altcoins have gotten their asses kicked big time since that point. And April 1st was the end of this very, very long sideways consolidation. But from this point, high and the low. Then we have a little bit here, a little bit on this correctionary move here. This high happens to support the area where it came, but just the area. Then we have this high again, support, and we're leaving this high. This isn't the whole. This is I've talked before. The three bears. Everything's got to be just right. Like not too hot, not too cold. In this case, up, not too little, not too small, not too large. Right now, it's at the price we're at now for a break of this resistance. This is way too low, so it's not right. And if it were to go up to say 78, that would be way too much. And it could do it, and it's like whatever if it does. But generally speaking, it's one of two things that happens here, and the more common one is that it does happen of a move that's closer to something that's just right, somewhere near 74, even 75, or 74 high change. And I guess 75 is in that same area. But like I stated with these highs, we have all of these. We have this previous high, this previous high, this previous high. So what's the next high gonna be? It sure looks like it's heading towards that direction because as it's been correcting since it got to this 18 in the middle of August, it has held support in both situations. It endured it. Actually, three situations it had. Situation number one, it passed. And now it's just establishing its key resistance when it has this move. Then it corrects it successfully again in here, retests, and really now establishes this level of resistance. Third test, and this whole congesting in this area, showing strength amongst the 18 average of highs. So this was no surprise that this was going to happen. And I've been talking about that on the channel because of this. And that's, to me, I don't really need to use really any more whatever indicators. This is one that I really thought of myself because on freestockcharts.com they allowed me to use the averages on highs, lows, or close, as you can see here. Let's just go to settings. You can choose. I mean, a lot of them. I'm just like, what's HL2, H high low close, open high low close 4. I guess that's the average of all three, maybe. That might be the average of all three, because that's something I'm a fan of too. When I'm working on a spreadsheet with averages, is I'll take the close, the high, and the low, but I really don't care about the open because the open to me is just another close, technically, and it should always be, especially with this here, because when a market closes, the next second it opens. So to me, I mean, this one here, like this is just a weird gap here. This should not happen, but anyway. After the three periods of showing strength, and even this one here, it just stays supporting the 18 average of highs. And then you have the liftoff excitation, September 1st and 2nd, 3rd, and today. Just every single day has been up. But it's managed to get above this level of resistance. So as far as correctionary moves, just like always, it's going to be the 18. If it ever goes below it, like it does in here, then that's fine. It's when you do that, you got to make sure that if you find any, say for example, say after this period here, we had all green. Now it could have been a red candle in here. We could have came back and tested this support, done this, and then that, and then you see how the 18 would just falter. But things like that. Let's see what other ones. Again in here, it's just common to do it. But oftentimes in bullish cases, stuff like this will often be the case where you may test it a bit, but that's all it is. I'm expecting again that this is going to be a significant move. So, again, not too small. Let's just take a look at other time frames to help us determine. And here, we're just seeing the long sideways move, summer of 2018, ending in April of this year, 3/4 of a year, going yada yada sideways. But what we're not having now, that we were having then, is vicious up and down volatility. We're having normal movements. This is like vicious up and down volatility. And a little bit in here, definitely this in here. where it has a lot of those big up and down choppy movements within whatever primary trend it's having. Now, before all this was going on, let me just scroll this back before all this happened. It was common to have, like, wasn't too. It was just mainly those plays that I circled in there. There was just a lot of back and forth choppy moves. And for me, that's what I hope for. Haven't really been getting it, of course. And the direction for where this can go, well, we've had this high to this low, right now to this high. Now, as far as coming back to here, I don't think that's plausible just for the simple fact that there is more alternate coins today than there was back then, but there was still a lot back in here, though. There was still hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And remember, there could be 1,000, 2,000, but after you get past the top 100, like what percentage of the actual market cap is the top 100 coins? That's just like 99%. But uh, as far as coming up to these areas in here, it's definitely plausible that this thing has the potential to get into the 80s. But markets go down, markets go up. I have to think that there's got to be a period of significant, significant time where we have the opposite. And significant time, well, in this case, we went from early 2017 to early 2018, about a year. Now we have been a year and closer to two, but a move of like 8 to 18 months on the decline side. We'll see if that happens or not. I do believe that a lot of alternate coins will be doing well as we move forward, just for the simple fact that I state down, up, down, up. And going back to finish off within Bitcoin, and I want to refer to how it was back then. Altcoins started going roughly at this top in here, right around here. February 27th, February 25th, right around here. And that was when it was reaching previous high. So there was from well, I'm going to count this as the bottom because that's when the uptrend started. So if I'm looking at an uptrend line, which would connect this all these lows, well, that pretty much started at around October of 2015. And this thing didn't get going until March of that year. So a year and a half or so with Bitcoin rallying and thus altcoins not doing so well. And then after that, well, the dominance went all the way till January of 2018, which would take us to like shortly after the top, right around here. And now we look at the situation. Is it going to work out very similar to before? Well, let's draw a new line in right there. And this move in this correctionary move from this low on its rally to this one in here has most certainly been slower on this end. This is the rate of ascent. This had a sick rate of ascent, and it's had just this really, it's just a small correctionary move, at least as of now. So could we continue to see Bitcoin dominance work until it gets up to here? And then Bitcoin starts to rally. We're seeing like 48,000 Bitcoin, and Bitcoin dominance, meanwhile, will be doing this. And that very easily. If that happens, will be AKA this. But it would mean like, oh, here we have Bitcoin going from 19,000 to 46,000, which means 150% or 2.5x move. And yet Cardano had an 8x move on that same time frame. Litecoin had a 5x move or 6x move. This coin had a 20x move or a 40x move, or it's just larger levels. Time, of course, will only tell with it. I still think, though, that with that, there's going to be a lot of ones that may not do as well, or you'll see some just bite the dust, if you will, along the way. But even some losers of the future have the gains, but then fail in the future, meaning a code ABC, whatever, just one that's not going to do well. say Bitcoin goes up from here 10,000 to here, or whatever, goes up 2.5x, and that coin goes up 8x. But then, of course, later on, maybe a year and a half down, it'll be nothing. Those are all possibilities that I'm looking at it. But to me, once Bitcoin really starts to get going after this, that's what might take for this, because the altcoins not doing as well since in here is very reminiscent of how it was from. I didn't trade this back then, but I've looked at historical data enough to see that altcoins had a lot of downward movements, meaning trading like altcoins and the strategies that I've talked about. If you were to say start and say here, and then you would have been here, well, you would have seen Bitcoin go up from like 400 to 1,000 or 2.5x, and yet your dollar value might have been the same or barely higher than that. Maybe you started with $1,000 and then you're worth 1250 because your altcoins were getting destroyed. And then, of course, how your value would be when this was going up in here, up to the, especially in January, because at that point, that's when Bitcoin had its rally. There was, well, part of those really big choppy moves meant from, I mean, back in the day, the last couple of months, like right in the last month from here, when it broke 8,200 to this top of close to 20, altcoins were getting their ass kicked, at least against Bitcoin. They were just holding in there against the dollar. And then, roughly around this time, right around this top, middle December, December 10th to December 15th, the altcoins were just tearing it along the way. Up until roughly around here, which meant you were able to cash out at 11,000 Bitcoin based on the fact that if you were an altcoin holder, your portfolio would have been the highest here. If you were a Bitcoin holder, it would have been the highest here. But at this stage, to be able to sell your altcoins for Bitcoin, to sell your Bitcoin for dollars in whatever way, that was the primary time. It was so fast. It was like a 4 week run. But it meant as you were getting into Christmas, into the new year, January 10th, that, oh my goodness, at some point, like these coins are worth so much, whichever ones they were, because they were all going up together. Part of what I call a dartboard rally. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.